Hi, I'm Lee Woodward, one of the three founders of Transformation Decoded, and today we are talking about success. What does it mean to us? Is it actually a synonym for status? And do our own ideas of success lead us into snobbery? Join us for a great discussion. Hey everyone, this is Lee Woodward here, one of your three founders of Transformation Decoded. I'm joined with my two co-founders, Jackie Ulmer and Isabel Banerjee, and we're super excited about our conversation today, which is going to be around the topic of success and what it kind of means to us, and kind of this idea of how does it relate to status and everything. And we got on this by on our mastermind actually this week, kind of sharing a conversation that actually Jackie was telling us about that in her most recent podcast, which we'll make sure we put a link to that, Jackie, in the comments below. And it just kind of got us talking a little bit about generational ideas of status, but we said, wow, or success. And we said, wow, we really need to talk about this because we got into this great conversation. And I want to kick it off with you guys, starting out with just kind of how you think about success. And Isabel, I'll toss that one out to you first.
Ooh, okay, like on the hot seat, because success is a very sensitive, evocative word for me right now more than ever, because I'm going through another transformation, another change in my life. And I'm dealing with imposter syndrome, having felt, there was a time that I achieved some success with my career and my financial status and my public persona. And then I stepped off that stage and took a more quiet life. And now I'm rebuilding. And so constantly I feel like I'm thinking, oh, geez, like, am I the one-hit wonder? How can I do that again? I'm going to be 66 in 2 weeks from today. Oh, wow. And can I do it again? And because I am a high achiever and an Enneagram 7, and we've talked about that in other episodes as well, I don't want to just do it again. I want to do it better. So success measures for me are changing. I think I'm running to catch up to them. Success measures for me certainly are less about status of money and property. Thank you for connecting success and status, Lee. They are much more now about personal fulfillment and growth, and knowing that was hard. I can do hard stuff. And I did it because I said I wanted to. In fact, we have a t-shirt thanks to our friend Jackie Scully, because I said I would. So yeah, this is a super sensitive and inspiring topic for me about success, and I'll share more about that later.
Great. Hey, Jackie, what about you?
Yeah, I love this topic. So I saw a quote a long, long time ago that goes something like this, that true success is the ability to live one's life on one's own terms. And I've really held on to that because I've made a lot of interesting choices through my life. And through those choices, I've learned that the most important thing about success is the definition that you decide is going to define you personally and your own success, because we all define it differently. And at the end of the day, for me, it's not having the biggest bank account. It's not having the most toys. It's really about checking the boxes of feeling fulfilled, which is another thing that we've talked about. It's that fulfillment of, am I strong in my faith? Am I good in my family and my friends and relationships? And where do I attend to my health? Because I look at Steve Jobs, someone like that, and I'd love to know him, looking down from the heavens. I'm assuming that's where he is. How would he define his life now on success? And I don't want to get into a whole lot of that. There's a lot of controversy about the person who he was and a lot of those type things. Certainly he had huge success with Apple and that whole thing. But at the same time, there were failures along the way where he got kicked out of the organization and then had to make his way back in. And I know one thing that I have learned to really use as a mantra almost is that if one person anywhere has achieved what it is I want to achieve, whatever that means, then I have the ability to achieve it as well, at least to some degree, whatever would check the box of satisfied for me. So I really try to hold on to that and really work on measuring my life overall by the experiences that are created from it and the success in that, because I really don't believe there are failures. It's all just steps on our journey to success. And it's important that we begin to recognize a lot of that as every step moving forward is a form of success. And I'll talk a little bit more about the snobbery and some of that kind of stuff as we go on. That's juicy.
Oh, yeah. It was, so I think that when I look at success, the definition has changed for me over time, most definitely.
Yeah.
And there was certainly a point in my life when I did think about success was about, how high up I could go, that type of achievement in my career, type of achievement financially. There was a certain amount of status that went with that I enjoyed. And so that certainly has changed over time, but I look back on it and I think, I think it took some conscious work to not still be in that place. So and maybe it comes with age or whatever, but I look back on it and go, I was guilty of all that a little bit. And, Jackie, you mentioned that quote. It was interesting because I think you guys know I love quotes. So I go out and I like to find quotes. And one of the first things I did when we kind of said, let's do the success topic, is I went out and I started to pull up quotes. And I was surprised, very few reflected kind of what you were just talking about, like kind of our own terms and having that life. Winners and losers came up. Quotes on winners do this to be successful, losers, the spoils go to the whatever type. And I was really surprised about this, how many. I would just say that they were almost synonymous, this winners and losers idea. And the success. So I'm going to ask you guys about that. Like, how does that play into your idea of success? And has that changed over time? I mean, for someone to be successful, does somebody have to win at something and therefore somebody has to lose? Or kind of, what do you think about that, Isabel?
Wow. Yeah, a definition of a success, I think, as Jackie said, really has morphed and grown and become more of a personalized definition over the years, which is great. I mean, I didn't need to just, because generationally I'm older than both of you, the keeping up with the Joneses or, getting the promotion was kind of like, that was the confirmation that you had reached success. And now I'm so glad that success now means more to more of us, and certainly to me, about personal validation and prioritizing what the relationships and the hallmarks of what is success to me as opposed to someone else. So maybe it's become a more internal definition opposed to the external one when I was in my 20s and 30s and didn't know yet. I didn't have that personal maturity and confidence to say, I define success. Someone else doesn't tell me what that looks like.
Interesting. Jackie, how about you? Winners, losers, are they required in this game of success?
Yeah, so, oh wow. Both of those are words that can be extremely triggering and have a lot of different meanings and connotations. Um, and I am big on defining too. I think it's so important to define words, and in communication to be good at defining it, because it can mean so many different, whatever the word is. It's especially in this day of written word, whether it's texting or email or on a blog or whatever. The reader's the one that gets to put the interpretation and the intonation and the value, if you will, into whatever it is that we write, unless we're really clear on it. So I like the word winners. And I think that, getting out of bed is a winner. I mean, I think that all of us win every single day, and there are plenty of things that we win at. And I think that loser is a term that I don't ever want to personally put on another person. And I don't even want to put it on myself. But I do believe if we're going to use that word, it can only be self-definition, and I caution people to be careful about that, and only use that word if it's going to in some way empower you to make a change, to be whatever it is that you want to be. Because if you say to yourself, oh my gosh, I'm such a loser, which we've all said at times, or that was such a loser move or whatever, just be really clear on what that is, and know that it's a stopover, if you will, and not, it doesn't define you. You aren't a loser. It's, maybe an action that you took or something. It's fine if you choose to define it that way, but I say be very, very careful with it, because again, there really aren't any failures. They're all lessons, and we all have the opportunity to learn from every challenge, every obstacle, every failure, that we kind of go through. So yeah, that word is interesting. And just in my own background, coming from a network marketing space, there can be a real tendency to develop kind of a snobby attitude about success and failure and ranks and income, and who the winners are and who the losers are, and oh, you just don't want it bad enough if you haven't achieved that. And that's one part of the profession that it's never been aligned with me and my values, probably because it took me a long time. I struggled for a long time to get going, and I didn't want anybody to tell me that I wasn't successful, because I didn't want it bad enough. I just had to figure it out. So yeah, I think that snobby thing and that, status and a lot of that, I think that we have to be careful with that as we move through whatever levels, because life is 50-50. There are peaks and valleys. And one of the things that we had chatted about on our mastermind call was just Oprah Winfrey, and even Steve Jobs, mentioning him, and you, Isabel, right now, and all of us, all three of us who've gone through changes. Oprah Winfrey talks about when she was invited to give the commencement address at Harvard, and she was having imposter syndrome because she'd left her big 25-year, talk show, and was launching and struggling, if you will, to get things off the ground with OWN, her network, the Oprah Winfrey Network. And she was feeling like, all eyes were upon her. Oh, is she a one-hit wonder? Well, a 25-year one-hit wonder, even if that's, as good as you get, that's pretty good.
We'll take it.
Exactly, right? Yeah. So it's interesting that, and she was even saying in the book, and she didn't say this, but she is considered the most powerful businesswoman in the world. She's been the wealthiest forever, those type things from the woman perspective. And yet she was still having imposter syndrome and thinking, how can I talk to these kids about success when I had it and now I don't, and I'm struggling to get it again? And it's kind of like, wow, again, like how do we measure success? How do you have it for all that time and then feel like you lost it?
Yeah. Isabel, I'm going to go back, and then Jackie, I'm going to come back to something that that you said, and I don't want to lose Isabel. You had said that there was this over time that you've changed your kind of definition of being more internally focused measurement of what success is versus some of the external outward stuff. And do you think it just comes with time, or do you think that you were there some pivotal moments where like you had that crisis of consciousness, or some things where you said, wow, I got to take a different direction? Or is it just a natural maturing process that we go through?
Well, I don't consider myself very mature at all, so I'm going to say, no, I don't think that's it. But I do believe it's connected to a natural curiosity about developing and becoming the best version of myself, and what what this program is about, and that's transformation, and beginning to understand how um, we evolve and how we develop and learn more about ourselves. So for me, it was that slow dawning. It wasn't an immediate, like, oh, I got this figured out now, but it was a slow awakening that success was internal, wasn't external. Now, what's great about achieving internal success, and whatever you define as the metrics of that, that helps with your external life. I mean, I believe very much. I'm definitely, we talked about this a little bit the other day about capitalism versus socialism in our mastermind. I'm very pro conscious capitalism, and that money makes it easier to do things and to do things for others. So I certainly, that's part of my success metric, but I get to decide what that actually looks like. It isn't that I show up in the Forbes, 60 over 60 or whatever listing they have.
I
Yeah,
love that
I'm
conscious
still learning.
capitalism. Yeah, I love that conscious capitalism.
Yeah.
Um, well, I mean, Jackie, kind of going to that, because I mean, let's face it, ladies, in a way, if you go out and Google success and if you look at, a lot of the culture around it, there's a lot of this external success. And Jackie, we talked about that a little bit, saying when we said, what's the first thing someone asks you when they meet you? What do you do? We were talking a little bit about that, and you had shared with how you kind of changed that up recently. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do and why, and kind of what your impetus was for kind of your personal change in that approach?
Yeah, absolutely. And so for me, I've shifted that from what do you do to tell me about you. Tell me about you, because we're all so much more than the career that defines us, or what we do for work or income or any of that. We have so many other facets to our life, family and friends and travel and hobbies and, philanthropic things that we're involved in. There's just so many facets to us. And to me, that's much more interesting, which of course always leads into what you do as well, certainly here in America, where we're so centered on that. But yeah, so I really wanted to change that. And part of the reason is because for years if somebody asked me that question, I couldn't really say. I felt like, oh my gosh, do you have 30 minutes? Like for me to explain every little piece, like I just had never really put it into that smooth elevator pitch that just made sense. So I love learning about people. I think that that makes life so much more full and rich when you learn more about, who you are. Tell me about who you are. So yeah, that's a big piece of it.
Yeah, I love that. And Isabel, one of the things, I mean, your whole passion is helping, women, kind of climb and be successful in their lives, but doing that with a very holistic approach. And I love how you kind of talk about what makes part of your success. And I would love to have you share that, because I think it's that broader view. That's what your work is based on.
Yes, and it's been, it's all like for each of us that we have found our place, our niche is based on life's experiences for ourselves. And my success was built on the privilege, the advantage of others who had gone before me and already done what I wanted to do, or something even greater. And in some cases, what they've done was huge mistakes and learnings, which we call failures, but they are just learnings, and they shared that with me. And so over time, I realized that it was this reciprocity of lifting and climbing, that we help each other up, and we reach forward to somebody who knows more than we do or has experienced more than we have, and we learn from them, and then we reach back and bring another woman along with us. So that's why my mantra, lift as you climb, and how I see that as that's building a success ladder for me, because I can grow, but I also will help other people, and that also helps me grow on the internal part as well.
It's nice. You know, it's interesting because in this topic, on my walk this morning, which I was really trying not to think too much. I was trying to be very present during my walk, but
Right.
my brain went to, of course, a few things, as our brains do. And I started to think about this conversation, Isabel, kind of your philosophy around that. And I realized that I was having a little bit of like, because I was in my corporate career, I think I did play that type of leadership role that you'd said. I like to think of myself as a positive leader. And when I was deciding to leave that career, I had a lot of women come to me and say, like, what are you doing? Like, where are you going?
Right.
And, and I had this little bit of, oh, shit, this morning, was it my responsibility not to leave? Like, what was it? Did I let those women down surrounding me? Now, I can say that I'm serving women in a different way, but it was just kind of this, I don't have the answer yet to that. So I'm still thinking that one through, but it was this really interesting conversation in it with myself.
Mhm.
And so I kind of want to throw out on our kind of ending note here, I would love to get each of your thoughts on, like, what is our responsibility and obligation kind of to others, and either changing these ideas or showing up for others in this, and and not that you have to say you shouldn't have left that career, that's not it, but just kind of like, what do we owe each other in this game of success? And Jackie, I'll toss it over to you since I just had Isabel on the spot.
Yeah, great pondering for sure. And I'm reminded of the whole, secure your own oxygen mask first before you can assist others. And I think that our obligation, if you will, another word that probably needs definition, but our biggest responsibility is to do good. And to do good in the world, to do good with other people, to leave everything as good or better than you left it. But when it's time for you to go, and that's your calling and that's your heart, because you have other things to do and you feel that your time here is served, that's the time to march on. And certainly we can stay connected with people, especially in the world of social media today and all of that. But I think it gives you an opportunity to go out and just like you said, you're serving in another way. And I know, for me, again, with the success definition, like having a fulfilling career, there are so many people, and I brought this up the other day, like, the definition of insanity almost is leaning your ladder against the wall, climbing to the top and realizing it was leaned against the wrong building. And I think there are a lot of people who do that. They stay in careers, they stay in jobs that aren't fulfilling, but it pays the bills. Maybe it pays the bills really well. And so they stick with it because they're obligated to so many other things. And at the end of it, you don't want to get to the end of it and say, wow, I gave away the biggest chunk of my life to doing something that wasn't fulfilling. So for me, having a fulfilling career, serving my tribe, serving them in a way that not only fills me up, but fills them up too, that's success. And that feels more like play than work any day.
Yeah, great. Love it. Isabel, how about you? How do you think about that obligation? Jackie, I'm paranoid to say anything now with your words. No.
Wow, I love where this went to, because this is not anything that was in my consciousness that we would go to on this topic, but that's what happens with us, right? So just a little sidebar for anybody who's listening. If you don't have a mastermind like we do, you better stick with us because we're going to save you years of anguish because we've already been through the muck. And we have an episode about that. I went to the place of thinking that my responsibility seems to be, and we've talked about this, is that, yeah, I was there and I felt great angst around selling my company and leaving my staff to go on to work in another company and my customers and suppliers and showing up in the associations and the leadership areas that I did to pursue a new life. But what I believe my new calling has been partly this, and that's just being vulnerable, authentic, out there, talking about, wow, there's a lot of change. There's a lot of reinvention. There's a lot of, you just gotta go with this to grow to the next level, to evolve. Like we talk about transformation, there's the goop and the goo of the caterpillar, where you really have to come undone completely before you can begin the transformation to the butterfly. And so that's where I'm feeling that my responsibility to show up successfully now is about just showing up all in, authentic, vulnerable, complete mess in the goop, and then sharing about what I figured out in that transformational period for me.
Love it. I love the showing up. And I think I'm with both of you, just said so much that resonated with me. And
Yeah.
me, where I'm at right now is showing up and showing up with that intention
Yeah.
and giving myself the breathing room to know that I'm going to blow it. I'm going to get away from that intention of how I want to show up.
Yeah.
How many times a day, I don't know, but coming back to it. And at the end of the day, asking myself, did I show up? How did I show up within that intention for the day?
Yeah.
And so I love that, Isabel. And in the goop, and it ain't always pretty, is it? And oftentimes we pull it together on the outside way more than it's pulled together on the inside, right? So that's where the goop resides. Yeah.
It's magic. It's illusionary, right?
Yeah. So, well, like we say with every topic, and we said that leading into this topic, oh my gosh, this could be hours and hours of conversation. So I'm sure something else will percolate, but Isabel has said this before. This is truly how we come up with our topics. We have our masterminds where we experience something and we talk about it and we go, wow, that's really something that is hitting a chord with us. And we're like, let's share it because we're not alone. There's got to be other people thinking about this or will find this interesting. So of course, we would love to hear directly from you. If there's topics or things that you want us to cover, please put it in the comments. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as Isabel says, ring the little bell so you get notifications of when we post new content. And please find us on Facebook under Transformation Decoded to enjoy our community there as well. And we thank you for your time and being with us. And we hope to hear from you in those comments. So until then, be safe and healthy. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.